Welcome back, guys. We're in a great position. We've got 4 leaders from the industry. We have Eli Lilly, Eirgen, and we have 2 people from PharmaChem Ireland. I'll get it wrong. Hold on. BioPharmaChem Ireland. Jeez, I'll get that right yet. So I'm going to start. We're here to talk about retention of talent and leaders within the biopharma industry and life sciences. So I'm just going to ask, maybe, if you mind, it happens to be an all-lady panel. So ladies, if you don't mind, maybe Una, if I'll start with you, do a quick introduction, who you are, a little context and your perspective maybe on the... that should be on. They're on.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Una Feeney. I am the Global Occupational Health and Wellbeing Strategist for Eli Lilly. I'm based in...
Una, I'm going to ask you to hold it right close, because I think it's...
Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Una Feeney. I am the Global Occupational Health and Wellbeing Strategist for Eli Lilly. I'm based in Kinsale. My background is occupational health. And so I've been working with Eli Lilly for the last 20 years.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Susan Costello. I'm the Network Director of BioPharmaChem Skillnet. So we're an enterprise-led, government-funded organisation, and we deal with the biopharmachem sector, working with them on their talent development agendas. And I'm in this role 17 years.
Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name is Anne-Marie Slattery. I'm here from Eirgen Pharma today, a small pharmaceutical in Waterford. I'm with the business just over 3 years now, but have spent the last 20 years working in HR leadership roles. We manufacture end-of-life chemotherapy drugs for animal and human consumption, and we've about 180 employees in Waterford.
Thanks, Anne-Marie.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Siobhán and I work in BioPharmaChem Ireland. BioPharmaChem Ireland is one of the trade associations that represents the biopharma sector in Ireland. We're one of 39 trade associations within IBEC. So I'm in this role 15 years. I came from a quality background in recruitment before I started with IBEC 15 years ago.
Great.
And you look after skills and talent for the association.
Thank you, Siobhán. So it's kind of nice. We have a nice little mix here between maybe larger corporates, smaller, slightly smaller, but still quite large and so on. And obviously with yourselves supporting the industry, should we say. Might be good to get maybe if I start with you, Una, can you give you the context of retention in particular, the challenge or how you see it, the challenge or the opportunity for your organisation?
Yeah, so I suppose the challenge is from our industry. Obviously, we have a lot of competition, but I think we're growing exponentially at the moment. So we're opening a new facility in Limerick. We're growing in Kinsale. Here in Little Island as well. Again across the globe. We're recruiting. So I think. From our challenges is obviously from a competition perspective, but also looking at how we look after employees and ensure that we're looking after our employees, and what does that look like from a well-being perspective. So I suppose my focus is looking, I suppose what we say is that we invest in our employees long term. So like from when we take on our employees, that that is a journey. So so I suppose it's kind of like, we're looking at the different challenges, across the different demographics as well. So
I'm going to ask you, so when you say it's a highly competitive market, are you predominantly competing against other farmers, or are you competing with the high techs and the...
No, predominantly the other farmers. So I suppose if we look at even in the Cork area, it's obviously the hub for pharmaceutical. So I suppose we always have to be conscious of what we're doing, how we're looking after employees, how we will attract new employees. So I suppose I think that we're probably one of the best pharmaceuticals in the world. But so I think it's just we just need to be conscious of that all the time, like that.
Yeah. Thanks, Una, and we might come back a little bit more on that. Anne-Marie, I'd be interested just in your perspective as a slightly different context, maybe a smaller organisation, but still the same problems.
Yeah, I think the problems are very similar. We would be a small to medium pharma company, very different to Eli Lilly, but we're in the middle of a pharma hub as well, and particularly in Waterford, there's a lot of rotation of talent. So, making sure employees choose us and that we're competitive and we're looking after employees it's the most important thing for us at the moment. And I suppose what's really critical that is we can tell that story to candidates coming in, and that we have a robust talent strategy and we can talk credibly about it. Like, in the market, we're rated on how we attract talent, how we engage talent, how we develop talent, which is really critical, and also how we retain. Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks. So maybe, Siobhán, from your perspective, Susan, from your perspective, you have more of an industry-wide perspective, shall we say. How do you view it, or what are you hearing from the people and the organisations you're working from?
Yeah, so I suppose really what Una and Anne-Marie will be saying around the whole competitive piece, the industry is growing, it's fantastic, but everybody's trying to pull from the same talent pool. So really the pressure is on now for organisations to say, okay, so what makes us the place to work? What sets us apart from our competitors? How are we going to attract that talent? And then once they're in, how do we retain them? So we're certainly seeing, I'm going to say, a shift in organisations now looking at their L&D strategy, and it's great to hear Anne-Marie saying like they have a talent strategy. Not all sites do, and certainly that's really beneficial for employees coming in if they can see, okay, well, there is an opportunity for me to grow within this organisation, and it brings it round to that retention piece. So we're certainly seeing organisations now starting to look at what they can do to change.
Yeah, and of course, if L&D is a big part of that, it's probably something you could speak to, Siobhán. How do you see the context of the challenge from your perspective?
Well, I suppose from a global point of view, we're seeing the sector growth. We're seeing like a 5 to 7% growth globally for the pharma sector. So that's bringing its own challenges when you're looking at, the success, and we see this, the success in Ireland for the sector is our talent, our people and our talent. So competition, competing with talent for other companies is a big issue with companies. So we're seeing companies, addressing their recruitment strategies, looking at creating new pathways into industry. So looking at the whole apprenticeship route is become a very attractive pathway in for candidates and for companies to attracting young, diverse candidates into their business. Looking at L&D, you're looking at that lifelong learning, looking at the whole credentials and building micro-credentials, which is the whole route of developing small micro-credits, stackable credits, so people can add to their credentials throughout their career. So, so L&D is really the centre for us. And actually, a recent survey that IBE carried out, our manufacturing survey, showed that 67% of the companies actually have skills and talent as their primary priority for this year. So companies are really looking at it, looking at their recruitment process, looking at their retention processes, and adapting their strategies around it.
Yeah. So would it be true then to say that the industry, basically the potential recruit has a bit more power than maybe they would have, a bit more say, and a lot of your responses are based on how do we maybe step up to a higher expectation?
Yeah, I just solely, and I suppose I'll pass it over to Una and to Yvonne afterwards. Diversity and inclusion is such a big topic now, and actually when candidates are coming to roles, they're questioning the diversity and inclusion policy, they're looking at the environmental, ESG is very important, they're looking at, so the issues that are important to the young people, they're questioning to make sure that those values are actually in the company as well. Yeah. So these are issues which, 10 years ago probably wouldn't have been a priority, but candidates are asking and are looking for these policies and looking at the values or matching their values before they make a decision in what company they want to be hired in.
And is that, what behaviour is that driving, we'll say, within your organisations? Is this the move towards well-being and all these things?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, we've looked at it is that we've looked at a more holistic integrated approach to health, safety and well-being. and DEI. So I think, one of the things that we've seen, and this has evolved over the last number of years, is that it's not just about salary. It's about like what benefits. You know what I mean? So I suppose what you have to look at as well is, that holistic integration approach. So, I think one of the key things is that we are doing an awful lot of good things as organisations. So, we have great, fantastic HR policies. We have maybe occupational health. We have health and safety. We have sports and social, and we have DEI. But the problem is that a lot of these are working in silos and they're not integrated. So, for example, when we talk to our employees, or we ask them, so a lot of the times we do things because we think employees want them versus actually what employees want. So I think by looking at it in a more integrated and removing those silos, so for example, and exactly to your point about what people are looking for now, it's what can you do for me versus, obviously I'm bringing an awful lot to the organisation, but what can you do for me? So I think, as you look at it, one of the things that we have actually looked at is the whole area of branding. It's kind of like naming the baby. So, yes, we are doing an awful lot of good things, but do our employees know about it? So unless I've engaged in some of these things, HR policies or, well-being things, I don't actually know about it. So, so we have actually moved that to branding it. So it's either live your best life or, in that Kinsale manufacturing, we use live for life. So it's live safe, live fit, live healthy, live well. And again, when we talk about safety, a lot of people think about physical safety, risk assessments, but actually, there's psychological safety and how your psychological safety can impact your physical safety and vice versa. If I get injured at work or at home, I can't partake in, maybe, at work, I may not be able to go to work, I may not be able to partake in my activities or, do things with my kids, and that can affect my psychological, safety. So I think, again, a lot of the times is DEI is out there, and but it isn't actually pulled in. And if you look at the different employee resource groups, so if you look at, for example, enable or looking at invisible and visible disabilities, and again we're doing a lot of work with UCC on the whole disability the students services, and again looking at a recruitment process and is it fit for purpose. So I think one of the things that came out was that, when we're doing our advertisement, we're looking for, advertising, would you like to work in a fast-paced, exciting environment? So, if we look at the neurodiverse population, maybe that would put really talented people off joining our company. So again, it's kind of, starting to relook at from recruitment to retention.
Yeah. I like that's a really good example, because I know when I was on the job market many years ago, it was every job was fast-paced, high powered, you were going places. Yeah. But what's the new language? What are we saying if we're not saying, fast-paced, ambition, all that sort of driven stuff? What are we saying?
I think for me and I suppose our recruitment strategy, what we've tried to do is tell our story, because we've looked at it in the sense of the employee is interviewing us too, and they've a choice of multinationals to go to at the moment, and what I try and do is approach tell a story of our strategy and where we're going, where our end game is, but how we're going to get there. And what I find is you can see where people light up, and that takes the direction of the interview. So if we're talking about operational excellence and how we need to be more digital and how we need to apply lean tools, you can see people light up and you can get the best out of them in an interview, and they walk away feeling, God, I can add value to this organisation, and even the style of it. So I think the recruitment process and the initial interview needs to be looked at as in the sense of candidates are interviewing us too, and there's no place for hierarchy in those,
Yeah, it's a really good point. Sorry, Siobhán, you can...
Yeah, no, and we'd certainly see that, I suppose, across the organisations that we'd be dealing with in terms of changing the recruitment policy. But there's an appetite to change now that maybe there wasn't there previously. So they are looking to say, how do we recruit neurodiverse talent? How can we change that recruitment process? How do we change the language? And how do we integrate it more into the story as to what this organisation is where we're trying to go? Yeah. And we're really seeing, I'm going to say, across the sector, a real appetite for that, and back to Siobhán's point on the developing of micro-credentials and the programs to try and help them do that, there really is an appetite to change, which is great to see.
Yeah. Is there quite a bit of cooperation within the sector, even though we might be competing in terms of building the pool? Is that?
Yeah, there is really. I suppose we'd be hearing from so many organisations are facing the same challenge.
Yeah.
So they really are then trying to pull together to say, okay, how can we combat this? And from a place where they would have maybe worked in silos before, there is more that collaborative approach. The appetite then to work with academia to try and get that across the line as well.
Yeah.
It's changing.
Just on that note, I suppose we kind of seeing this shift and greater collaboration between. And there's always been great collaboration, but I think the last couple of years that drive for building new courses has to be industry-led. So there's fantastic, and we've a fantastic education system here in Ireland, and then that collaboration with industry and building those strong links has been really popular. And we've seen that in programmes that we've developed to the Skillnet and to the apprenticeship programmes as well. Like the new generation apprenticeships are all industry-led, working with academia to develop those programmes. So it's critical that collaboration. And we do this really, really well in Ireland, this collaboration piece.
Yeah, great. I'm just going to take a second to see if anybody in the audience has a question. This gentleman here, have we a microphone there? 1 second, somebody's coming to you with a microphone. Sorry, Evan, have you? Oh, we've all them here. Can I borrow one of those? Just say your name.
Michael Kilkelly from IED Hub in UCC. So I just want to address something Susan said earlier on about a limited talent pool. You know, everyone is competing for the same limited talent pool. And that's a finite resource we have in terms of Irish people. So I suppose the question I want to ask Una and Anne-Marie is, do you have a policy, say, of looking at bringing international workers? So, for example, in UCC, we have a huge interest in our industrial-based postgraduate courses from China, from India, from Vietnam, from companies like Jordan as well. And do you have a policy that facilitates taking on people from different countries? And, you know, there's the cultural aspect of it, the change in the company itself, but also there's the technical aspect of supporting visa applications. So do you have a policy on that? Because it would open up a huge raft of people.
From a Eirgen perspective, absolutely. And we've some really nice success stories where we've attracted people from different countries and supported them in the visa application process, right through to the onboarding process, and they've been really successful. Some of the learnings that we found is, you know, it's a great idea, but you know, locally we don't have accommodation in there's such a shortage that it kind of really challenges us as a business to scale up in that space. But I would say in the 3 years I've been there, we've relocated probably about 5 engineers, all very technical and niche skill sets that we were recruiting for a period of time in Ireland. We just couldn't get them. So they've all been really successful, and I think as each person has come in, we've learned something new along the way, and we'll always learn, but absolutely we sponsor it, we integrate them into the business, and actually they all teach us a little bit, you know.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Here we go.
I suppose from our perspective then it's looking at the whole multicultural, because we've obviously moved the continuum so we have I think 15 or 17 different nationalities over the last I'd say 5 years realistically. So again, how do we help and support them from their own well-being, because obviously it's a huge cultural shift. So as part of our DEI and well-being program, we have a multicultural employee resource group. And we're learning from them. So it's really, So they're sharing, their cultures, and it's embedding them in and integrating them into the company. So that's been really successful.
Great, thanks Una. And Yvonne, is it?
Yeah, Yvonne McNulty, Brightwater Executive, Board Member, Skillnet Ireland and Solace. So skills agenda, people agenda is very dear to my heart. Great to be chatting about this today, ladies. But my question really is about, I suppose, to all of you. For the first time in many years, we've seen different generations in the workforce. So just looking to know how you build that into your, I suppose, cultural, people agenda, retention, I suppose, strategies, and what are the challenges, and I suppose what's worked would be really helpful to know. Thanks very much.
I'll kick off there, will I? Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's a challenge. You know, like there's different levels of capability, even in the application of technology at the moment. What I found really useful is we have introduced an employee forum where we've representatives from each teams to kind of come and tell us and mark us and how we're doing and what we can do better. And you can see at the different generations and the different even nationalities, like the honesty that is coming compared to what would have come 10 years ago is phenomenal. And that's what we want. We're not doing it to tick a box. We want to hear how we can be better. What also I found is that to facilitate the honest discussion, we host a roundtable lunch on a monthly basis. And what we do is we mix it up and collaborate across different functions. So we randomly pick maybe 10, 15 people, myself and CEO, maybe another member of the SLT, would ask really honest questions in a safe place. A lot of that feedback in the last 2 years I've directly input into the talent and OD strategy. I've brought the strategy in there before I've implemented it to get like our organisation to throw rocks at it, because what's important is everyone has their input and that it's fit for purpose, because it can't be tick the box. It has to drive improvement for everybody.
Yeah, and I would concur with that. So I think the other part is like last year we had like 5 different generations, so we've had a lot of, so I suppose we have a lot of challenges at the moment because we have a significant amount of employees that are retiring, that are leaving with years and years and years of knowledge, and then we have we're going through a huge recruitment drive. And when any organisation goes through a huge recruitment drive, that brings its own challenges. So how to manage that. So I think, having a very good, well-structured, well-being program, but that it's an integrated program, that it's not just a tick-box exercise, and that, it shows how each of the different functions are interdependent of one another. So how your HR policies, work with your health and safety policies. So, and it's not about having the state-of-the-art gym. I think a lot of the times when we talk about, about well-being and we do a lot of benchmarking, people say, oh, it's okay for you because you're a big multinational and you have a huge budget. We don't have any budget. We have no dedicated budget to well-being. But what it is about looking at what you're already doing, and leveraging on that and building on that. And the other part of it is a lot of the times, we do things that we think employees want rather than looking for the voice of the employee, and that is critical, and especially if you're working across different generations because you have different needs. For example, I was working with one of our other facilities outside of Ireland, in one of our European, and they were doing a huge program on smoking cessation, and I was like, oh wow. And I said, so have you really what was your drive for that? So they were putting a significant amount of their budget, inverted commas, into a smoking cessation program. And I said, well, what percentage of your employees are smokers? And they were like, well, we don't know. So, they went back and they did it, and 7% of their population were smokers. So it's looking at, are you targeting the right population here? Because, sometimes you're not, do you know what I mean? And you're putting all these resources into something that you could be putting it into something that's more useful for the general population, So it's kind of just being very strategic. And then, just leveraging on other, and promoting what you're doing. So the whole idea of when you brand something or you have an umbrella, you bring all these things underneath it. So it's easily identifiable to employees so that they know it. So if you talk about, say, for example, your Live Your Best Life program, they know that that's about your HR policies, about your health and safety, about your DEI. It's not about, and it's pulling it all together, so that it's easily identifiable for both employees and managers.
Great.
Yeah, and I think from the Skillnet perspective, we're certainly seeing a change in the trend in terms of the programs that are being requested across the sector. So things like, how to work with multi-generational teams, unconscious bias. There is, that investment piece going in now where companies, they do want to change and they want to look and see, well, the younger people that are coming in, actually they have a lot to offer. The older generation that are there. So while they may have experience, the younger generations are coming in with different mindsets and different ways of working, and different doesn't mean wrong. It's, it's different, and it's getting, I'm going to say maybe it's the mindset shift in that, but we're certainly seeing that across the sector as well.
Great. Thank you, guys. grab that mic
I
there
just
if you need to say
to
anything.
add very quickly, one of the things we introduced was a reverse mentoring program, more for the younger generation to come in and actually mentor the SLT and the likes of social media use and, you know, like key areas of what they've taken from college and marketing, and it was phenomenal. Great to build relationships and open door policies, but we learned so much out of it. It was very successful, yeah.
Great. Thank you, guys. The questions are coming fast and furious. Let's say your name first, sir.
Hi, Owen Fleming from UCC. Look, I was delighted to hear Siobhán and Susan there referencing that kind of academic collaboration and the development of micro-credentials. But I suppose the question that I have for the industrial contributors is, I mean, are you actively using, I suppose, these kinds of courses and promoting these courses as a tool for retention? I mean, I know from working in the States that this is something the companies use there. They're promoting going on these courses. It not necessarily locks them into the company, but it certainly incentivizes them, you know, that they make budgets available, they make time available to people to engage in these courses. And I just wondered, is there that culture within the companies now in Ireland?
I can't hear the question.
Yeah,
That's
we're live.
much better, thank you.
Sorry, okay. Look, it was just in the context of the development of these new courses, whether or not the companies are actively supporting and incentivizing their employees to attend the courses, really as a tool to support retention of quality employees. You know, that are you making budgets available, are you making time available to people?
Absolutely. So we actually spent quite a lot of time last year developing a 3-year development strategy to uplift our capability to deliver on our business plan. And, you know, what I will say going into it, it was a huge learning with the supports that are available and the structures through Skillnet, the BioPharmaChem industry, the likes of IDA. So what we have in place from a business perspective is all employees have an IDP, which is an individual development plan, and it's actually one of our 6 business goals. And within quarter 1 of the year, they define either on-the-job training, a program that they want to go on, or maybe a collaborative project they want to work on outside the business. And actually, it's rated as part of their performance. And the discussion is also had in parallel around the career competency needed to get to the next level. So you map out your career framework. People always need to know where they're at in their current career, where they can go to and what the value of that role is and what they need to do to get there. So I think if you can paint that picture for employees, support them with time off, source the programs for them, they'll show up in abundance, yeah.
Great. Now, we've talked a lot about talent. Sorry, did you want to say something? I'll actually give you your mic back now.
I have to talk now.
No, you don't have to, but did you want to say something?
I suppose just on that and industry supporting the development of skills and developing their people. We see it very much too, just on the apprenticeship side and the support that industry is giving to their apprenticeships. So we launched the laboratory apprenticeship 2018, and the numbers have grown now. We have 127 going through the programme at the moment. And that is 3 days and 2 days, 2 days in college. And like the feedback from our companies and from the apprenticeships is the fantastic support that industry are giving to support that development. And also there's a big shift now in identifying, as you mentioned, about that mapping out of the skills. There's so many courses out there. There's so many different options for people. So companies are investing in their people and looking at helping in that mapping and identifying the programs that are out there. And back to your point, Owen, like micro-credentials is just a fantastic opportunity because it's time. It's actually giving time to do these courses. So there's a shift in moving wave. Like it's very hard for someone to delegate 2 years to do a master's, while micro-credentials make it more accessible to people to build on their by stacking these small micro-credentials together. So, yeah.
Great. Thanks, Siobhán. I'm going to ask a question. I'm curious, we've talked a lot about talent. What about leadership? Where is the challenge in leadership? How do we see that perspective? I have 2 questions on leadership. Is there as big a retention, attraction problem? And also, the second question is more to do with all of the issues we've just spoken about. DEI, retention, all of these things, are they any more strategic now, or is this HR, you deal with them, we don't want to hear about them?
I think. Sorry, no, just. I think a lot of it is to do with the culture of your organisation as well. So I think culture plays a huge part. So I think, if you look at, I mean, when we have a new recruit, I mean, it obviously takes a lot of, there's a lot of money, I mean, and there's a lot of, investment in a new employee. So I think one of the things is that, as an organisation, people, the culture is really important. So again, when we take on somebody, when we talk about investing in an employee long term, we from the start of their career to their end of the career, so like again from a career progression, explore your career, leadership, coaching, well-being. We know that like you're not going to go from a graduate like in your early 20s to when you leave our company, that something's not going to hit you. Whether if from a career development point of view, absolutely, but also other life challenges. So whether it's a bereavement, whether it's an illness, whether it's an illness in your family, we're having more employees now being diagnosed later in their with neurodiverse conditions. So how do we support them? You know what I mean? But so like going, and sometimes what you'll find is that maybe in a 2 to 3 year period, employees seem to go through an awful lot. They may have a bereavement, they may have financial, they may have relationship problems, they may have sickness in the family, and if you can support your employees during those times, you're more likely to keep that employee because they realise that, in the most difficult time in my life, the company were here to support me. Do you know what I mean? And they will give back 100%. So I think, we identify that and we actively say that to our employees. That's when we come into our best, is when the chips are down. And we have all those supports. We have the HR, we have occupational health, we have wellbeing supports, and we will get you through it, and you will come through it. You know what I mean? We have rehabilitation, return to work. We have lots of different programs that we will help and support you and keep you in the workplace, because we know work is good for employees.
Right.
I think to support that, I think to come back to your point on culture, it's really important to have the right leaders and the right roles as well. And like I always put myself back into early on in my career, like who was the best leader I had and what was really special about them. I think it's when somebody shows up, you get to know the person you work for. We're all human. Once the person is clear on their goals and expectations and they give you support, when you come up against barriers, they help you get rid of those barriers, and your potential is endless after that. And I think if we can get our leaders developed, people in the right roles, leaders developed to the point where they bring their best selves to work as well, I think that's when we'll see the best out of employees as well.
Authentic leadership,
yeah. And just on that note as well, in developing the leaders, we talk a lot about mentoring, but actually sponsorship is really important. Sponsoring, making sure that you're advocating for your staff when they're not in the room, and developing your people into leadership. In a development on the leadership as well, and maybe Susan would want to talk on this point, there is, and I know that there's a lot of investment in developing programs to support that leadership development as well. But I think, and then again, you're mentioning about that reverse mentoring. Our leaders can learn a lot from the new people and the young people that are coming in as well. So I think that shift to reverse mentoring is very positive as well within companies.
Great.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing as well, there's a lot of newly promoted managers and leaders, and while they would have been really, really good in the role that they're doing, they're suddenly now tasked with leading a team and being at those maybe, at the leadership meetings, and they maybe don't have those skill sets or haven't been given the opportunity to have those skill sets to build and develop those. So we are seeing that as, I'm going to say, as one of the challenges then in terms of the retention of that leadership, because they suddenly find themselves from being really good to struggling in their role. So that's definitely one of the challenges. And going back to what you had asked, Padraig, about the, is it really at an SLT level, is that kind of what we've discussed there? From our point of view, I'd have to say it's getting there, but we'd certainly love to see talent development and learning and development as part of, a strategic priority for the organisations. I think if we could embed that in the overall strategy, we'd see a huge change.
Okay, I'm just going to check in with our audience. Any curious minds out there? There is, sorry, yeah, gentlemen, can I steal? Sorry.
I think that just what
Steal
you've
her
done there, I
the
think
commute.
management commitment as well is another, to get employee engagement is important too.
Sorry. My name's Phil Cullen. I'm from Randstad. And I suppose just one thing I'm looking at is in terms of like talent now in the industry, what would you say is the biggest skills in demand right now?
I think technical capability as we move through, I suppose, a very technical and digitalisation era. I would say change management skills for leaders are critical, and what's important is the world is changing so quickly. We are changing as businesses day by day, and if we don't bring employees with us, I think that's going to feed our attention. And I'll say one more thing, and then I'll pass it over to the ladies. But I think empathy from leaders, putting leaders being able and capable of putting themselves in their employees' shoes to help them that little bit better. Yeah.
Good. Okay, I one other question because we're near the end, so in a couple of minutes. What's the thing we'd love to see? If there was one thing I wish we were doing more of that would improve retention? What would that be? Or what will the future hold in this space? What other changes are we going to see coming down the line? I've put you on the spot there, guys.
I'm going to say I kind of half answered that in the last question, so I'll start to say I think, for us the change is having talent development, really looked at a strategic level. And having that, and I think if you can, I'm going to say to Anne-Marie's point where they tell the story and the employees coming in understand where Eirgen is going. Yeah. I think if we can do that more across organisations where people actually understand, what's the purpose of our role, and where does my talent development piece sit within my organisation, and actually this is the journey that we're going to go on. And yes, I want to stay to do this because now I have line of sight of where I'm going, because actually talent development is really important to this company. I think if we can bring around, I'd love to see that change. I think actually it would solve a number of the problems that the industry is currently facing. That's my bit done.
I absolutely agree, and I think it is changing. I actually really want to see us tell stories about employees and how they grow in their careers, and even see more employees present at town halls and tell their stories. I think that's really powerful, and I think we will get there. I think we just need to keep people along the way and keep them engaged and keep developing them and really connect them to the purpose of why they're in the role they're in.
Great.
I suppose the change I would see is that that there's an expectation from employees now. You know what I mean? So it's not just all about, the salary. It's about what else can you give us, you know what I mean, to support more flexibility, I want time off to, be able to bring my kids to school or collect my kids. So I would see that as a big change, and it's an expectation, so can I, obviously from an operations perspective, we can't have people working from home. But, it's kind of so what can you do for me, to improve my work-life balance, my flexibility, so.
Right. Okay, thanks.
I suppose
final word,
and for me, I'm going to forever flag the apprenticeship route, and I think the ethos around the apprenticeships is about industry, developing talent, that collaboration with academia in developing the programs, and then making sure that through these program development that they're creating graduate placements within the companies and developing them. So as companies drive towards that, developing their own talent for the sector in a whole, I think that's really important. As I said earlier, we do the collaboration piece really, really well. So I'd like to see that to continue in that collaboration within industry, but also within academia, and creating those new pathways both into industry and into higher ed.
Great. Thank you very much. you've one other thing.
Yeah, just one thing. Just
Oh,
finishing.
we're late.
Yeah, so I
Make
just
it
think
fast.
just the other thing is communicating, like, as part of even the recruitment process of what you have in place, you know what I mean, and how you can support employees and, what accommodation. I think, even from the outset, if you can tell your story as part of the, of the recruitment process, it's critical as well in the whole attraction and retention of staff.
I love that. Go on.
Very quickly
Jeez,
as well.
Can't stop them now.
Get us going
Well, yeah.
talking about talent.
Yeah.
You never stop. But it's going back to that recruitment piece as well, and the early stages is actually getting in front of the companies to have that first initial conversation, which is very difficult as well. And we hear that from a lot of graduates coming through as well, is that how do they get to that first stage as well? So again, it's about that early stage of recruitment, is that screening process, that I think we need to really look at, because we are possibly missing some really potential good candidates and future leaders for our industry to that initial stage of that screening of the CVs. So I think that's something that we really need to look at.
Okay, great. Can we give them a lovely round of applause? Thank you very much for your time. I'm sure on behalf of the leaders here on the stage, if anybody has a question, I'm sure they'd be happy to meet you for a coffee. We're back here again at 11:25. So a quick coffee. Matt Moran is going to moderate another panel, and this is on shaping the future and dynamic trends and challenges in Ireland's biopharma manufacturing sphere, and a Q&A. So that should be lively. So we'll see you back hopefully in a few minutes. Thanks very much.